to take a few days off. Last week was absolutely overwhelming. And of course, it started with the UNNWO.org being introduced. I didn't say a whole lot about that, but we're going to be talking about that this week. I'm actually going back to my original format because since my videos got more involved, my views have gone down. People don't seem to want the proof. So what happened was that I planned on doing 3 videos a week that were more intense, and doing 2 sucked the life out of me. So much work, so much technical, taking my eye off the ball of what I have to do. And that's just deliver the information. I'll be building my website to include the references, to include all of that good stuff. But right now, we're in crisis mode. And if you don't think you are here in Canada, wake up, because the communists are coming. Not only coming, they're here. And I just watched a national rollout here in Canada of Black Lives Matters. And I can tell you straight up, in my province, it wasn't legit at all. Because, see, that movement didn't exist here. Literally didn't exist. In fact, they put the groups up and then they backfilled them in Saskatchewan. It was put up the day of the protest. Braden Page is the administrator, moderator. Now, just so you know, he doesn't have a public page. There's one photo of him. He's got 355 friends. Now, let's look new to the group. There are 381 members, this huge protest in Saskatoon. Yet, this person joined 7 minutes ago, 26 minutes ago, 38 minutes ago, 3 hours ago, 9 hours ago. The protest was last night.
That's right, Chantal. So we got here around 5:15, and when we first got here, there was about 5 to 15 people. I'm going to lower my voice because the protest is starting right now. As you can see around me, there's about 100 to 200 people that are here right now, and people really did come out of nowhere to come and join together. It was really spontaneous how many people came.
It was this shot in the Saskatoon Star Phoenix that made me know for certain that we were talking about models. And when I tracked this photo back, it came from Masala Model and Talent in Saskatoon. And then I found this post on June 5th about the protest on June 4th, and that Braden is actually one of their models. So I imagine he was hired for the role of this. What I saw here in Regina was a movement that came out of absolute nowhere. I checked into it. And the first thing I found was CCP propaganda. It all started with a seemingly emergency protest. It was announced on the Sunday night, May 31st. It was held Tuesday morning, June 2nd. On the morning of the protest, this story broke on CBC, Saskatchewan. And Regina teacher says social post suggesting he was stealing from his own car highlights racial bias. Now, this was actually a well-coordinated story because CBC broke it, and they even it looks like licensed the article to a lot of different publications, or just sent it as a press release, which I'm thinking it was, because it was all the original. It's the original article on every media posting, even in the States, which all of a sudden Saskatchewan is landing on all sorts of international news. Now, the reason Mbanza said he wasn't doing anything suspicious or wrong. So let's look at the original post. Now this landed on a Facebook group. So they're filming a guy at a car who's looking in, checking the handle, looking around, has a bike there too, and then's trying to get in again. Looking around. Now this landed on a Facebook group that people should lock their doors. Now, I don't know about you, but I think it was rather suspicious. Now, I would have went outside or opened my door and said, hey, what are you doing? But see, I'm thinking that that would have been taken wrong too. It wasn't right to put it up on a website, but he should have called the police. This is why I know this was a plant. Because the original poster cannot be found now. And as well, I linked the original poster to a article CBC did 2 years ago for another cause. Yeah. In any case, the original post has been deleted, but screenshots of it have been shared hundreds of times. Mbanza says he wants the situation to spark a conversation about racial bias and systemic racism in the community. Now, of course, the Regina protest was just after this was released. The sister got involved. And of course, this last-minute protest manifested. With chalk artists, the best PA systems, water and masks for everyone. This was a national rollout. And this is typical CCP plant propaganda in this video. In that time, that emergency protest rounded up the top of the line PA system, water, masks, lots of masks. They had them for everybody if they wanted them. People with amazing signage, and that were all available to show up at the legislature on a Tuesday morning, so they weren't working. Now, as somebody who's been involved with several protests here over the years, and most recently for our freedom, we're lucky if we're getting 10 people out. So I started digging in deeper and found myself confronting a character I had known about in the past, thanks to Airbnb. See, when everybody thought I was doing nothing, I was actually doing research. And I realized quite quickly that, in fact, Black Lives Matters here in Regina actually came from Ottawa. This protest was federally funded, and it came through the Canadian Federation of Students. Libin Salad is member services for the student union at the University of Regina, but she's also involved with this organization, and I know that from personal experience. And of course, she could mass mobilize, particularly with funding and organization and planning, because see, the police were there bending the knee, and our legislature seemingly knew exactly what was going on as they issued a one-liner. And all these groups were mobilized. And this is what this organization does with federal funding. Interestingly enough, knowing about the CCP propaganda piece that started it all, I had to go back to what Trump said the other day, last week, when he cut ties with you-know-who, the World Health Organization.
China's cover-up of the Wuhan virus allowed the disease to spread all over the world, instigating a global pandemic that has cost more than 100,000 American lives and over 1 million lives worldwide. Chinese officials ignored their reporting obligations to the World Health Organization and pressured the World Health Organization to mislead the world when the virus was first discovered by Chinese authorities.
And then I see CCP propaganda. And then I see a campaign here in Regina that, again, never existed. They had no membership. In Regina, our population is 1.4% Black, 85% white, 10% Aboriginal. There was no representation of Aboriginal groups as far as I was told. Apparently people did get up, and Aboriginals did get up and say a few words about racism and some of their experiences. But again, what I found interesting is that Black Lives Matters trumped an existing Saskatchewan issue with Aboriginal people. They basically stole the stage from the people that have been here and actually endure racism regularly. Unbelievable. They were like a side salad. And again, it absolutely shows the disconnect of global governments and global governance when you are dealing with rolling out a program like Black Lives Matters and your lobby groups that work with these organizations, or just create them right out of thin air, depending on where you are. What I resent is the interjection of an American issue, largely. I know we have it here, don't get me wrong. But I just found it strange that they created an issue in which hasn't really been an issue here, quite honestly, towards Black people. In fact, Black people are quite revered here. You see, the Rough Riders are everything to a lot of people, a lot of white people. They are very proud of their team. So, in a lot of ways, I feel for the Black people that just got used here in Regina. Now, don't get me wrong, I left here in 2008 because I happened to actually, the last straw for me was I was out with a Black guy and I took him to a party, and the energy was despicable and disgusting, and I realized that the group of people I'd been associating with weren't very nice. And consequently, I actually left here for a number of years. But when I returned in 2012, things had really changed, I can tell you. More immigration. More people arriving, immigrants, economic immigrants, refugees, we have them. And I think our city's pretty welcoming. I did Airbnb. I welcomed immigrants in my home for 7 years. I had over 700 guests in this place. So I know that when immigrants are coming here, they're not looking for communism. They're not looking for these things they ran from. But there's another agenda at work, and that is a UN Agenda 2030 agenda. And it's when I saw Trudeau actually bend the knee to discrimination, and not that that, again, is a bad thing, but it wasn't genuine. And it's when you see scenes like this that you know that there is nothing genuine about this. That in fact, federal funding has been used and utilized across the country to fulfill a federal agenda. That was a show. And it was influenced here locally with Chinese Communist Party propaganda. It's scary as hell. When I see issues being used and U.S. problems like George Floyd, he was not a victim of a Canadian system. He wasn't. He was the victim of an American system. But the deep left has used this as a huge opportunity because it's not about rights and freedoms here. What's happening is they actually want to defund the police. They're trying to paint the police as the problem instead of the criminals. Well, as you can see, here's the starter pack. You be clamoring for RoboCop. Ever think you hear cities volunteering to disband their police departments? This is all being carefully planned and orchestrated. The next level of invasive surveillance technology is all ready to roll out. Sure, there will be an interim period of community policing. That will be intentionally made to look incompetent with false flag robberies and murders and leave public in despair, clamoring for something else, something more reliable and impartial. What I see is that the CCP from China is actually infiltrating us from the inside. And like leeches, sucking life from one to feed the other. It's all about the centralized system, the circular economy to come. And a new world order who has literally legitimized themselves with a website introducing capitalism. Yes, capitalism. Can you believe it? These days, things are turning on a dime. And actually, I was doing my video on Friday. I was doing it. And then I got a video message, and it was Steve Bannon introducing the new Republic of China.
Also read the proclamation. The declaration of the new federal state of China on 4 June 2020 in Beijing. This is the preface. It is the whistleblowers movement that has brought us together in order to realize the rule of law, democracy, and freedom in the new federal state of China. The free Chinese throughout the world and in China have established the Himalaya Supervising Organization. During the past 3 years, Mr. Miles Guo and myself have founded and led the whistleblowers movement that exposed the illegitimacy and the true evil nature of the Chinese Communist Party.
In any case, it looks like a new entity has been created to take over China. And I don't know about you, but this is huge. And after seeing Trump's more aggressive China policies, it's worrisome. What I'm seeing is foreign interference on the ground. And that needs to worry all of us. We are being manipulated internationally. And I'm scared. I am. We have been literally interjected into a brand new reality. And what doesn't exist, it seems they'll just make it up as they go. I can tell you, if you're a conservative, this new world order doesn't like you. None like me. Doesn't like us people who believe in free choice and freedom. It can't exist in this new world they're creating right before your very eyes. It can't work. If we do not pull together pronto, it's going to be gone forever. The way of life that we have become accustomed. See, global issues that happen on the other side of the world are now becoming our problem because we, again, are becoming part of a global government, operating de facto with the World Health Organization in your province through those public chief medical officers. Think about it. As I said, we are going to the original format. So this week we will be discovering the UNWO official website and the concept of happytalism, which is what they're going to be pushing down our throats. And of course, taking a look at the landscape across the country, Agenda 2030, and how this international document and sustainable goals are going to completely overtake our lives if we allow this new order to take hold. As you know, everything in your life has changed, and there is no one answering your call. They're off. They're not going back to work, our politicians. They are not dealing with our concerns. They are letting this whole reset happen, and they're going to claim ignorance when it's done. For all you people who believe in your conservative, PPC, any of those politicians, I'm sorry, honey. I know a couple, like Rachel Harder in Lethbridge. That's one of the only conservatives I see standing up for Canadians. The rest of them, I don't see anything happening. They've been infiltrated. And they have also decided they're going the way of the NWO and this global model. If you think you had no representation before, At least we had a provincial. When Canada moves into a global model, as it's doing, you can clearly see the disconnects happening everywhere. $1 trillion debt? Your kids are going to be slaves to the communists. And I'm starting to believe there's just nothing we can do about it, because I don't see people understanding the necessity and urgency of action. And I see all those politicians laying down for a world takeover.